All right, before we get started, Aryaan and I wanted to take a moment to just send a big shout out and thanks to all of the first responders and the various international organizations, but especially the LAFD and CAL FIRE and the inmate fire crews that have been fighting the recent Palisades Fire, Eaton Fire, Sunset Fire.
We cannot thank you for everything that you've been doing, that you've done for us. You are obviously the first ones in the line of fire, in danger, and it's been a tough time for everybody here in Los Angeles and all around California. Even when we were evacuated, all over the news, all we could see was the LA fires. So
Yeah.
God bless every single person who's put their lives on the line.
Yeah.
To make sure that we are safe, that we are secure, and you're always in our thoughts and our prayers.
Yes.
And
we know that we like to joke around a lot as a podcast and have a lot of fun, but we really, really do appreciate all of the very brave people who go out and make sure that our houses don't burn down.
Absolutely. And we're going to be providing some links in the description of this podcast. So if you feel that you have any dollars to spare to donate to these wonderful organizations who are trying to make sure that the fires are contained and that people are safe and that we have safe drinking water and electricity,
and to help us recover
from these devastating wildfires, please go ahead and donate as much or as little as you think is fit. Anything helps to our first responders. And once again, thank you so much for everything that you do. Obviously, thank yous are not enough.
Yeah.
But we so appreciate everything that you do.
Yes.
And now back to your regularly scheduled cricket football podcast.
Downfield shot, loops it down there, and wide open. Then the ball is knocked loose. The catch is made, and then the ball is knocked out of his hand.
You ever play COD, Coach? Halo? You kill somebody, you crouch up and down on them? Yeah.
You are lifting weights? Correct. Does it not look like it?
Lawrence protected well. Going deep, has a man open again. Zay Jones for the touchdown.
Hey, you both right here.
I love this shit. I'm gonna smile all day. Hey, cause it's fun when I whoop a man's ass.
All right. We're back. We are back.
Say that again.
We're back.
We're back.
The Bolts podcast is back.
We went on a little hiatus because the city was burning down.
And other reasons. The holiday season happened
Happy New
before
Year.
the city was burning down. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas. And happy holidays. Since we played at both sides of the political spectrum of this podcast.
Yes. Both sides of the political spectrum and both sides of the economic spectrum as well.
Yes.
I love those big corporations. I love them. But what a way to start the podcast, I must say.
I must admit I love some more than others because only some corporations bring me sheer comfort.
And long life.
You got it.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty, my name is Nick Cates. My pronouns are he and him, and I would say that I've pretty solidly recovered from the fact that the Chargers season is over, and it's only been 6 days.
My name is Aryaan Ori. My pronouns are he, him. And I also have recovered from the fact that the Chargers are no longer going to be playing any more football for the foreseeable future. And it's only been 6 days.
If the foreseeable future ends in September 2025.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have a few games to talk about here. A bit of a wide spectrum of Chargers play here. I feel like we got, in some ways, in a good encapsulation, Clint Eastwood might say the good, the bad, and the ugly of this season. And just 3 straight pretty great wins to finish out the regular season, followed by a very shitty, crappy, frustrating loss to end our playoff.
And I want to preface this by saying the following. I think the both of us, we talked a little bit off air, and I think the both of us are taking an optimistic tone of the Chargers. I think we have a lot to talk about here, a lot to dissect, but for the most part, for those of you who can't stomach any more Chargers criticism, you've come to the right place for the most part. Because I think we both have some good things to say about the Chargers, including that last game, honestly, at least for me.
And if you're here to continue the Justin Herbert slander, get ready to be bodied and owned by facts and
Absolutely.
logic.
I was going to say the same thing, so I'm glad we're on the same page about that.
And I think we can start there in just acknowledging that a lot of the media and a lot of people that I don't think really watch Justin Herbert every week quite like we do, are saying a lot of things about having lost his first 2 playoff games. Justin Herbert is not a big game player. He can't win the big one. He's always folded. You know, he's like a football Clayton Kershaw a little bit. Is how he's being painted. I have a side-by-side player comparison for you to kind of give my opinion on this matter, okay? So let's talk about players A and B. Player A, through 5 seasons, threw for 21,093 yards, which is 267 per game, 66.5% completion percentage, 137 touchdowns, 43 interceptions, 96.7 QBR, 1 devastating playoff loss, and 1 pretty humiliating playoff loss. Player B threw for 20,618 yards through 5 seasons, 257.7 per game, at a 62.1% completion rate, 138 touchdowns, 100 fiscal interceptions, which you're gonna really raise an eyebrow at when I tell you who this person is.
I think I know who it is. Just because of the fact that you're talking about him, I think I know who it is. But keep going.
85.9 quarterback rating, 1 devastating playoff loss, like just kind of like a little bit like the other quarterback's devastating playoff loss.
Never mind, I don't know who you're talking about.
But not necessarily the same. 1 embarrassing playoff loss, just sort of like regular upset playoff loss, and then 1 absolutely nuclear, humiliating playoff implosion, the likes of which have rarely been seen by a quarterback of this caliber. You may have gathered already that player A is Justin Herbert.
Wow. That is shocking. I am taken aback. I didn't know. Jokes? Keep going.
Player B is in the Hall of Fame. Player B is Peyton Manning.
Damn.
And I just sort of read this in passing in an article. But in his 5th season, Peyton Manning, in the wild card round of the playoffs, on the road, coming off of a 6-loss season, lost by a final score of 41-0.
Goodness.
Wait for it. To
the San Diego Chargers.
Nope.
Damn it.
Because that would not be nuclear humiliating.
Oh,
that would just be a humiliating playoff implosion. But to really gain that nuclear designation, you have to lose 41-0 to the New York Jets.
Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. That is... Woo.
And in a case of me hoping that history doesn't repeat itself, but maybe has already rhymed, in his 6th season, Peyton Manning would win the MVP, and in his 7th season, he would also win the MVP, and in both seasons, he would suffer more humiliating playoff losses. In fact, 2 of them to the same team, the New England Patriots, forming several of, like, my fondest childhood memories.
I was going to say, you said that with a little extra pride.
Yeah, oh yeah, those were some fun games, folks. I highly recommend Brett Coleman's film breakdown of Ty Law, and I believe it was the 2003 divisional. Or maybe it was 2004. It was one of those two games.
I bet Nick in post-production is going to come in with a VO to tell you about what the actual one is. Am I right?
We'll see.
It was the 2003 AFC Championship. Link in the description.
But that's kind of my opinion here. I think that in many ways, having grown up watching Peyton Manning and rooting against Peyton Manning, I think that Justin has a slightly more diverse skill set. He's a little bit bigger. And I just think that he has a lot more potential to do crazier things. He has a stronger arm. And I do think that as much as, he came straight out and took accountability and said, like, that loss is my fault and I didn't play well enough at all, I do think that in certain ways, in the playoff game specifically, he was a little bit done dirty by some poor play calling. So, let's talk about Greg Roman and his offensive play calling. He's gotten a lot of heat. He's gotten a lot of heat from Chargers fans. He's gotten a lot of heat from the media. I think to certain degrees the heat is justified, and I want to talk about why. But I also want to talk about why it's so frustrating, because I don't believe that Greg Roman is rotten to his core, and I think he has some very useful plays in the Chargers playbook. It's frustrating to see him not call them after they worked. So, Week 16 against the Broncos. Chargers on Thursday Night Football come out with the win, 27-20. I thought that this was probably the most interesting game that Greg Roman called over the course of these last three. We got pretty solidly dominated in the first half, although the guys fought hard and really hung in. In the second half, things really started to come to life. So I was at this game. I want to talk about a few of the things that I saw that I really liked. And the first actually came in the first half, which was we ran a slip screen to Scott Matlock, which I believe gave us first down. Scott was able to, really make something happen with his legs. And we hear about Scott Matlock all the time. Everybody talks about, in the media, talks about how he plays offense and defense. But I really like Scott Matlock because I think he has quite a lot of utility on both of those sides of the ball. And after seeing that play against the Broncos, it was very frustrating to not see him pull that out again, especially in a game like the one against the Texans where Herbert was being completely pressured out of his mind for most of the day. So that was a great one. We also had a much greater variety of running plays. He ran a lot more outside zone. We saw him changing things up. We saw more screens to Q. These were all good things, and they allowed the Chargers to basically score a ton of unanswered points over the course of the second half and win the game. So, and other than a garbage time touchdown, because the Broncos scored, it was 27-13 until a garbage time touchdown, and we scored all of the points in the second half in between then. And we did it with a really good variety of plays. We had, screens. Justin had a great touchdown on a shovel pass to Hassan Haskins. All sorts of really good stuff. And it was notable because... And I really liked it because it went from being kind of a bad Greg Roman game to a good Greg Roman game. And we saw him pull out some new stuff on home turf that actually worked out really, really well. There was, however, one play that unfortunately Greg Roman went to very often that absolutely, positively did not work. This play, you may have noticed it on the broadcast. It has a calling card, and that calling card it comes out of a jumbo set. And as a result, the Chargers have to bring in another extra offensive lineman, who is usually Sam Mustipher, number 62, who has to register as an eligible receiver. And so, every time the Chargers run this play, the referee literally announces that it's coming by saying number 62 is reported as eligible. And it's always an inside run, and I don't believe any of the times I've seen it run 4 times total, and I don't believe any of them it was not stopped in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage. We won this game. We did a good job in this game, in spite of this play being called, I believe, no less than 3 separate times. But it was very frustrating to watch him go back to that same sort of thing time and time again, because it very clearly wasn't working. And, like, you know, defenses can sniff out what you're doing via personnel or formation or things like that, but, like, when you have 50 big bodies in there, when you have so many big bodies in there that somebody has to register as an eligible receiver and get announced to the entire goddamn stadium, not only is it going to get stopped every time by the team that you're using it against, but every other team is going to see that on film and be like, if they announce 62 is eligible, we'll just send everybody up the middle and we're going to stop it.
Why do they become prop comics when they see that?
How do you mean?
With your accent. That was a very prop comic accent you just made.
Interesting. I don't...
Or was it ventriloquism?
Maybe it was ventriloquism. I think it was ventriloquism.
Not to stop your flow, but I had to just call that out.
Just the ventriloquist voice.
I had to, because I really enjoyed that.
Nice. Thank you.
Keep going.
But yeah, so in the Chargers' next game, which was a very important one for me, we had the Nick Bowl.
Yeah.
What do you mean the Nick? What do you mean, What do you mean,
I just think the Patriots... That's where I'll leave that. Keep going.
What did they ever do to you?
It's what they haven't done for me that I take issue with. Plus, I'm from New York, man. What do you expect?
I expect... I don't know. It's actually not out of place for Chargers fans to hate the Patriots.
I know it's in place for the Giants fans to hate the Patriots.
Well, definitely, but
and
I feel like Giants fans mostly just kind of hate everybody.
I mean, they hate themselves more than anybody else. I used to be a Giants fan back when I was 8 years old, and we used to hate the Patriots. So it's in me, you know?
Yeah.
It's a bodily reaction. I can't really help it.
It's okay.
Keep going.
I'll keep working on you.
All right, you're talking about the Nick Bowl. I actually just I re-pulled up the Matlock play as you were talking about it, and I have to say it's beautiful.
Yes. This is going to become a theme. We have these things in our playbook, but we doesn't use them.
I mean, I think the good news is Greg Roman isn't going to be a head coach next year.
Let's put a pin in that, because I don't know if our other coordinator is going to be either. So, in the Nick Bowl, Chargers, and I will say with this team, very rarely, every game is usually close or interesting, or we are in it for some point. All 4 of these games we were in, or were competitive for some point, except for
the Bucks.
The Nick Bowl.
Except for the Nick Bowl? Here's the thing. I was going to ask you, when is the last time we had a big blowout? Before the Nick Bowl. When was our last big blowout?
It would have been 2022 or 2021.
Right.
Against... It would have been 2021 against Cincinnati.
I mean...
Which is really funny because that team went to the Super Bowl.
And I mean, my question, I guess, you know, it depends on your definition of blowout as well, because when we watched the Saints game, goodness gracious, there was never a second when I doubted we'd win that game.
You got there late.
Exactly.
There were seconds to doubt that we were going to win that game.
Besides the first, I mean, I don't know.
You also weren't at the previous week's game, which was the Cardinals game. Basically, after we gave up a safety and a touchdown, I was definitely, after we gave up that safety, I was definitely skeeved out after the whole,
The safety was the only, and that was in the first few minutes, right?
Yeah.
And then after that.
And there was a touchdown too. Because I believe that was like 26-8.
To 8, correct. Yep.
Yeah, they scored a wide open touchdown. When I was walking to the other side to meet Marco, the Saints scored a wide open touchdown. So I definitely
shout out Marco.
did not. Shout out Marco.
I don't see any interceptions. I don't see any touchdowns, my friend.
For the Saints. Oh, maybe
2
they
field
got
goals.
2 field goals.
Yep, second and third quarter. So they didn't even score The field goals in the same.
We got a safety, so they got a safety against.
They got a
us,
safety
so.
in quarter one.
I may be thinking about the Titans game.
Probably.
I don't know. Yeah, it was the Titans game that had the touchdown. That was frustrating.
Perhaps.
But we're directly in sync. The Nick Bowl. So massive blowout for the Patriots. I believe it was 40-13. Am I correct in saying that?
The Patriots game?
Yeah.
40-7.
40-7. Wow, I'm a Patriots fan trying to... Yeah, 33-point win. That is, by 10 points, larger than any loss margin of victory we had
this year.
Yep. Very, very good. And the type of game that we've wanted to see the Chargers have for a long time. Actually, Chargers may have blown out the Giants in 2021, too.
Yeah.
That was when Brandon Staley was lulling us into a false sense of security before he could break our hearts 2 years later.
The one thing I will say is Staley used to wear a black Chargers hoodie that I really liked, and I bought it. So thank you for him for that. But you look
way better in it because... Like, you're not butt ugly.
I appreciate it. And I'm also not a bad coach.
You're like, kind of the opposite of butt ugly.
Dude, I'm face handsome?
Yes.
I appreciate that.
What's the opposite of a butt?
I was literally going to ask you the same question. Is it... Well...
I feel like it's your bottom, so maybe the top of your head?
Yeah. But it's not really the bottom, if you think about
that's
it.
The
bottom
is
the foot, yeah.
But if you're sitting down with your legs in the air, if you're in the fetal position, on your back...
Then it's your bottom.
But I guess so is your back.
It's all about, are you looking at the body from a vertical perspective or a horizontal perspective? Because horizontally, yeah, the butt is the bottom. But vertically, the foot is the bottom.
What if we make this 4D?
Explain that. How would that work?
I don't know. We can't comprehend 4 dimensions.
we are killing it.
But that came to me and I wanted to
we're not,
it in there.
We're not just 2-dimensional.
Yeah,
we're
not.
We also talk about life's biggest questions.
We're not just 2-dimensional.
It's the butt.
We don't even have that much. We're 1-dimensional. We cover Chargers cricket.
Chargers cricket.
We smashed our dimensions into one.
If anyone has any opinions on whether the butt is the bottom, this is the
email us at boltscricketpodcast@gmail.com.
Do it. Please.
Anyway, the Nick Bowl. Massive 40-7 win for the Chargers. It was a complete win-win for me, but big win.
It's convenient.
I know, it was very convenient. Big win, big all-around game for the offense, I would say. Lots of star participants. Everybody got some good yards. JK had a pretty decent game. Ladd had a big game. Q had 5 catches.
Which game did Ladd not have a big game in this year?
The Chiefs game, because he didn't play.
Nice. Even that was a big game for him because everyone was talking about how he's not playing.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Ladd, actually, because...
We'll get to all of it.
Yeah, we'll get to all of it. Let's talk about Ladd after.
Maybe I'll stop interrupting you so you can actually finish your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of pretty, diverse set of plays called. Greg Roman called a good game. He was experimental. We had some screens to Q. We had lots of different guys running the ball. We had offense by committee. It worked very well. We had our biggest win of the season. The next game against the Raiders, I really enjoyed. And you...
Can I just say this? Sorry, before you continue. I went to the Van Buren Drive-In Theater not long ago while I was evacuated for the fire. And the number... And this is, mind you, this is near Riverside, California. We're deep in California right now. The number of Raiders jerseys I saw.
They were showing it at the drive-in theater?
The football?
The game?
No, we went to watch a movie.
Oh.
There was no football on. But the number of Raiders jerseys I saw, it was more than 5.
I don't know what to tell you about this town's obsession with the Raiders, man. They are LA's #1 football team and have been since 1982. And
I'm not even talking about LA. That's the crazy thing. I was in Riverside County.
Just non-Orange County. Because the Rams played in Anaheim, so they're Orange County.
Right.
And we can get into Rams fans on a future podcast. I'm going to withhold my comments for now and just comment by saying that there's only 2 Rams fans I've met who know ball, and if you're listening to this podcast, you know who you are, and you know ball. When I went to your team's game a couple of years ago, and just talking to random people I've met around town, who I'm not as close with as the 2 Rams fans I know who know ball, not been impressed.
Right.
Not been impressed.
Right.
I'm gonna actually cut this.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I will just say this before you go on to the Raiders game. I'm surprised. I was really surprised by that, and I will do some more research into why it is. I'm sure you may have a working answer for this, Nick, but for me, it's like, why is it that there's so many Raiders fans, and they're wearing the jersey like long after the Raiders are done? Zell Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's no timeline on wearing sports jerseys, right? Like, you can wear them whether your team's playing or not. I mean, I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
But it just was crazy to me that, wow,
Here's what I'll say about the Raiders in LA. There was kind of a special era to the 80s and 90s in this town. You see a lot of LA nostalgia where, like, you see the old Kings jackets and Gretzky jerseys and things like that. The Raiders are a big part of that. And, like, guys like Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube, they're big Raiders guys, and just kind of always have been. And so, because, like, that's kind of the team for, like, people who are from LA or grew up in LA, even though they only played 12 years in LA and, like, definitely they've spent most of their history in Oakland. It's just a team that resonated more with people here. And the big reason why the Chargers aren't popular here is that the people here who aren't conditioned to being Rams fans are conditioned to being Raiders fans and hating the Chargers because Raiders fans all really hate San Diego as a place. I don't know why. It contributes to the Dodgers too, which unfortunately due to Frank McCourt, like, he tried to sort of welcome in some of the less desirable members of the Raiders fan base, let's just say, into Dodger Stadium.
Which, speaking of which,
we'll get there later. We'll get to stick and ball sports later. But yeah, they're just kind of more culturally identified with LA, and it's one of the reasons why the Chargers have struggled so much is because the Raiders were always so possible. Were always so popular. Honestly, without the Chargers, like, really good new uniforms and branding and just, like, appealing to generic football fans that live in LA, it would have been really difficult for the Chargers to build a fan base here, more so than almost any other team that could have moved here, other than maybe, like, the Chiefs or the Broncos, but the Chiefs or Broncos were not going to move here, So yeah, 40-7 win, absolutely outstanding, and of course that New England Patriots team would go on to beat, and albeit resting several of its star players, Buffalo Bills team, and the Buffalo Bills are still playing football, unlike the Chargers. So week 17, we have the Raiders game, great game, 34-20, Chargers victory, and I particularly enjoyed it. Because, and I'm just going to lay this out, I'm just going to throw it out there. It's something that I was sort of trying to portend on this podcast for a long time. 13 fiscal catches. 186 receiving yards for Quentin Johnston. 186 yards.
That's something we've been hoping and praying for. And in fact, we were hoping and praying for it in episode 1 or 2 of this podcast.
Honestly, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I was talking...
And everything in between.
In extensive Q talk. Mm-hmm. Extensive Q talk.
Mm-hmm. I think he's finding his bearings. I think Herbert is more comfortable throwing the ball to him, and I think the both of them are getting coordinated. They're getting synced up and locked in. And obviously the numbers, they're not where we want them to be, but they're getting
yet.
Yeah.
This is definitely where we want them to be. I would take 60%. If he could do 60% of these numbers on a weekly basis, he would probably be the best receiver in the NFL.
100%.
So that was really, really beautiful to see. We saw things from Q that we never would expect. Like, he is, and I will just say, he is a very weird receiver. Like, he will drop routine balls over the middle and then against the Raiders get a yard of separation and make a one-handed catch. Like, he's just a weird guy, and I love him for it. You know, I think that's why I'm so drawn to Q is, like, I really think he like Jimbo, but in kind of a different way, exemplifies the weirdness that is the Chargers. And I don't know. I guess my offseason wish for Q, other than, you know, just continuing to improve his hands, is, like, really, really embrace whatever it is that makes you weird, because it's something good. And, like, you might have, like, a 50-yard game next year and then, like, straight up go for 250 yards, all of which are after the catch.
And I was going to ask you this question because at least the first season I saw him, which was obviously last season, it seemed to me like there was a clunk to the way he played, you know?
It's because he's a body catcher.
Right. Yes. And I think if he wasn't that fast, he's a body catcher. And at least to me, the first season, I felt like, what am I watching? This is the guy we bet over Zay Flowers. By the way, I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that wasn't the case at the time.
Can I tell you something
Please.
that may make you forget about Zay Flowers?
Please.
You want to know who in one season has amassed more receiving yards than Zay Flowers has in either of his professional seasons? Lad McConkey.
Yeah, of course.
Zay Flowers has never gone over 1,000 yards.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
in 2 years. So, I, especially, and obviously when Q was taken, we didn't know that, and last year we didn't know that we would end up getting Lad McConkey.
Yeah.
But, especially since we have Lad, I think, and especially if we can find a way to get another really good receiver, I think Q has a lot of room to improve, and I think, like, I could see us signing a big-name receiver and have Q be the guy that everybody's, like, all surprised about next year with the Chargers, because he's not getting covered by anybody, because, like, you have Lad on one side, or you have Lad in the slot, and Q's opposite T. Higgins or Tyreek Hill. I mean, shit, he's never going to get covered.
Right.
Stone Smart, Will Dissly, I don't know if Will Dissly's going to come back to the Chargers after dropping a ball that turned into an interception, but if you are listening to this and you are playing tight end for the Chargers in the 2025 season, I have two things to say to you. Number one, you are never going to be covered by anybody. If we get a third receiving weapon, like anybody, like any human that plays football will ever cover you. And also, please email us at boltscricketpodcast@gmail.com because we would love to interview you, even though it's the future and we don't yet know who you are. So yeah, great game, 34-20. Always nice to kick the Raiders' ass, and of course, especially an especially poignant win because the last time we played in that stadium, we lost 63-15, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so way better than that, beating the Raiders 34-20. That kicks ass.
Yeah.
And once again, lots of good play calling by Greg Roman. Obviously, Q went on a heater, so Justin just found him, and you know he made a lot of yards. I think Lad had a pretty good game as well. 5 for 95, nothing to sneeze at. So yeah, that was a great game. We finished the season 11-6. We gained the 5 seed, which is pretty goddamn good. It would have won us a couple of divisions in football, 11-6. We go to Houston in our first round game. Now, lots been said about this one. Lopsided margin of victory. Pretty depressing for all of us Chargers fans. Justin Herbert, I don't think he ever threw more interceptions than this in a game.
Correct.
4 interceptions.
Career high.
Career
best.
Although one of them was dropped by Will Dissly into somebody else's hands, and a second went directly through Lad McConkey's hands into the hands of a defender.
Yep.
So, I give him a little bit of a pass for those.
Yep.
Although one of the ones that wasn't that was throwing on the run across his body deep to the other side of the field late to Q, which you can't really blame Q for not catching that ball. That is, if we have any young quarterbacks listening, first of all, you have cool parents, and second of all, don't do that. I know we've talked a lot about Justin Herbert making throws that you're not supposed to make and like having them inch perfect. He's not Rahul Tevatia against the Punjab Kings, or like God or any other deity-like figure, Mike Tyson.
What a sentence that is.
I'm trying to think of I don't know. That, you know what? That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. Godlike figures. Justin Herbert cannot disobey all of the rules of quarterbacking. And, like, there are still some things that will make him fallible, and that's one of them. That was, basically your dictionary definition of a quarterback mistake. We were still in this game for most of this game. It was a better game than the final score indicated. We definitely started hot. We scored the first 6 points of the game, but we didn't capitalize. We didn't get in the end zone early enough. We had some unlucky breaks. Derwin had an interception that got overturned, and then the Texans scored a touchdown. Yep. 32-12 final score. We're out of the playoffs. Lots and lots of Justin Herbert slander.
Lots of Herbert slander, but I will say this, in the in the preseason, there's a lot of talk about what he's going to do without Keenan, what he's going to do without Mike Dubb, what we're going to do in the build back year, so to speak, the transition year. And I think there's a lot of positives to take from this. I mean, an 11-6 record.
Well, I'll give you one. I've been a Chargers fan for 4 seasons now, and that is the best record we have had.
I mean,
he did better than the apex of Brandon Staley in his first season. Jimbo did.
Yep.
And it is worth mentioning. I don't want to totally say that this is the reason why we lost, but it's worth mentioning that the fire broke out before the Chargers traveled to Houston, and we had to have a split practice, which I'm not going to say that's the entire reason why, but it definitely affects game preparation, and it doesn't help when you're playing on a short week for a playoff game.
Right. I mean, that definitely could have been part of it. I will say, as you said, I think for the most part we couldn't convert.
And we had a lot of opportunities.
We forced 3 turnovers as well. Our defense was playing really, really well.
Yep.
And I think that the scorecard does not reflect that.
It doesn't. The defense, first of all, can't do anything about pick sixes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely nothing they can do about that. So that's 7 points on the board. They can't do anything about the extremely weird blocked field goal to extra point 2-point conversion thing. Nothing they can do about that. That's 9 points off the board. It's now 23-12. That's a much closer game, right?
Yep.
And there's other, the defense also has only so much it can do when you give the other team a short field. The defense played very well with what they were given. The offense, and I think, unfortunately, a lot of the offensive play calling, because we had too many uninventive running plays. I didn't see Greg Roman changing things up enough. In the situation when you have Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, all of these guys coming at you, this is when you pull out the screens. This is when you pull out, options, God forbid. The thing that made Lamar Jackson into, the best quarterback in the NFL after Greg Roman stopped being his offensive coordinator. I'm not saying that, Greg, we have to turn into a college offense and run exclusively RPOs, but, just, put it on the table, maybe? I don't know. It's not something I feel like I've seen very much of at all from the Chargers this year, and it's exactly the sort of thing that helps out in this situation when the play is predicated on a quick decision that literally, like, Will Anderson cannot get to you in 1.5 seconds. Like, he can't teleport. Honestly, even if you didn't block him, he couldn't get to you that fast. Yeah. And those are the types of plays that when you're just getting cooked on the offensive line like that, you need to start turning to. And just tire those guys out and make them run and tackle a guy. And the Chargers didn't get enough of that. There wasn't enough short passing. There were too many inside runs. It was like zone or power. Great.
Yeah.
We're just changing the blocking scheme. Great. There wasn't enough outside. There wasn't enough inventive running. There wasn't enough. There's so many ways to, run the ball with extra steps. Screen passes. You can throw it to Scott Matlock. Won't somebody think of Scott Matlock? That's not a media producer trying to get a hit by being like, hey, look at football Shohei Ohtani.
Yep.
So
it's rough because I like the fact that Herbert, took responsibility, plain and simple. I let the team down, he said, with 4 interceptions like that. And again, as we've already discussed, that one of them was not his fault.
One of them was definitely not his fault. One of them was only kind of his fault.
Yes. I mean, I think he had a rough night. He got hit 13 times, including 4 sacks.
Yes.
He took a lot of hits. And I think one of the things that we definitely agree on is that I saw a lot of panic and a lot of freezing up on the offense.
And he wasn't and Justin was not getting out of the pocket. Honestly, that's the biggest criticism I have for him because
the whole season, I'd say.
I need to do a comprehensive film analysis later, but yeah. I am prepared to say I'm not 100% sure of this, but basically every game where he started to scramble, he ended up changing the game and taking over.
Yep.
It's almost an integral weapon to our running game because it opens up everything else. And I think that may have been a mental issue. And honestly, just with all the panic of the Palisades fire too, I think, there were guys that were probably skeeved out. One more thing from the Houston game. We saw the Sam Mustipher play again. I think it was in the third quarter. And I was just so Greg, this didn't work against the Broncos, who have a good defensive line. You're going to try this shit against a dominant defensive line, and they know it's coming. They've seen it 3 times on film. They watched the Broncos game, Craig. They have that film. They're allowed access to that. Please, bury this shit in your playbook. I want you to call this next season with the frequency of the Scott. I want you to switch the frequency of this play with the Scott Matlock slip screen. Think of them in opposite ways next season because the Scott Matlock slip screen I feel like could turn into a little bit of a really effective weapon. But this play has not worked against 2 separate teams, and I mean it might have worked against the Patriots or the Raiders, but he didn't try it against the Patriots or the Raiders because he was actually calling his good plays against teams that weren't as good, which is frustrating. Anyway,
I want to just go back real quick to something you said before and tie a nice little bow on it. Not a Bo Nix, but a bow.
A bow. Not a Bo Nix, but a Justin Herbert.
A Justin Herbert.
That's our Oregon. That's my Oregon quarterback.
And that's Herbie's mobility in the pocket. Last five games.
Yes.
We lost 2. Bucks, Texans, beg your pardon. In the 3 games we won, Herbert ran the ball. There are games where he ran the ball 3 times. There are games where he ran it 4. It was 3, 4, and 8. And
4's all we need.
4 is all we need. If you're mobile in the pocket, if you're given the D-line a run for his money.
One of the things that I will give a compliment to the evil Kermit the Frog, who endorses the company that canceled the policies of many people that were affected by the California wildfires. One of the things that he does do well is he knows how and when to use his legs. And Justin working on that for next season I think is one of the big things that could cause him to take a major, major step and potentially be an MVP level quarterback.
Yeah. All right. Well, overall, I want to say this before we do our big episode on the Chargers, season recap. I do want to say I'm very confident. I think I'm the first person who tends to be pessimistic about my team. And that's just how it is, man. I mean, the first season I was a Chargers fan was 3 years ago. Or 2 years ago, I believe. Whenever Staley's last year as coach was. Oh, no.
No, it wasn't. Second to last year.
Second last year as coach was. When we got eliminated due to the Raiders in a wild card game.
That was his first year, and it was not a wild card game. It was the last game of the season. You've been a Chargers fan for as long as I have, buddy.
Goodness gracious. Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm kidding. Just a joke. I remember this is our... That was not a wild card game? Wait, hold on.
That was the last game of the season. If we'd won, we would have made the playoffs, and we lost.
So this is the first wild card game?
And the Raiders made the playoffs, I believe, and got obliterated.
Is this the first wild card game we've made while we've both been...
No. Jaguars, 2 years ago.
Okay. All right. So let me take that again. Let me take that part again, at least. I've been a Charger fan for, I'd say, since
4 years.
Since Staley's first year as coach, basically. Head coach. And I think this is the first year, for all my pessimism about this team, about this franchise. That's cricketing lingo coming in. For all the qualms I have had during this podcast and during my years as a fan with Herbert, with our offensive play calling, I am very optimistic because in a year where not a lot of people had expectations of us, high expectations of us, we really brought the goods. I'm very proud of us. I think Herbert, again, for all his follies, I think he really did as good a job as I think he can. And I'm really proud of the way that they embraced the Harbaugh school of thought. I think all the guys really got on board, and I think they really, really, and you can see it even if you take a look at the Chargers social media, you see the passion that these guys have. I mean, you don't see that during the Staley era. You see people who are trying to get by. You see people who don't really want to be there.
You see a lot of Brandon Staley talking like this. Man, if you want to win in the NFL, this is how you have to do things. If you want to win in the playoffs, this is what we have to bring here.
Yep.
And Jimbo's like, why was 6 afraid of 7? Because 7, 8, 9.
Hell yeah. I am so, again, the fact that we have Jimbo, the Big J, I am so...
We need a proper oddball like Jimbo at the head of the Chargers.
100%.
I don't want anybody for the rest of time to coach the Chargers that isn't certifiably batshit insane. At least as batshit insane as you and I are. Because that's what... The Chargers basically invented modern football, and this team did it by employing people who were, at the time, thought to be batshit insane. Because they wanted to do things like stretch the field vertically with deep passing.
Yeah.
Something that now happens in every single NFL game that doesn't involve... I'm trying to think of a quarterback with a weak-ass arm. Peyton Manning. Tom Brady, honestly.
Yeah. And we're not even talking about the free kick. We got to talk about it.
We got a
lot to talk about in the season recap. Unless you want to go into it now.
Let's tie a bow on the Chargers. Yeah. Let's tie a bow on the Chargers season by talking about what the Chargers did not rank as their number one play of the season, but what I think the Bolts podcast is going to rank as the number one Chargers play
100%.
of the season.
Yeah.
Dicker, the free kicker.
Yeah.
So this is a rule that only sick people like Jim Harbaugh and me know about, or knew about before this happened. I know this because I found out about the fair catch kick in 2012 or something, very randomly, just scrolling through NFL rules on Wikipedia because I'm addicted to surfing that website, and have been for decades. And many of the players on the field interviewed afterwards did not know that was an option. But in football, when a punt, usually it's a punt. You don't want to really fair catch a kickoff, because they usually go into the end zone or near the end zone. You can either take the ball where you have it, or you have a choice where you are allowed to have your kicker kick the ball off of a tee and try and kick a field goal.
This is Nick in post-production. It is actually just a regular place kick with no defensive lineman allowed to rush, as opposed to being able to kick it off a tee. You can't kick it off a tee. Back to the show.
There are very few situations where this would be advantageous. But if, say, the half is about to end, or it's already ended, but the other team committed a penalty against you, creating one more untimed down, and you're a little too far away from the end zone to take a shot at it or kick a normal field goal, this option becomes very advantageous, because when you're looking at field goals of upwards of 55 yards, the way you get that distance is by lowering the trajectory, but the drawback of lowering your trajectory is that those big tall guys in the middle of the line can block it much easier. If you have a free kick, they aren't there. So, we had a fair catch by Darius Davis, which was followed by a fair catch interference penalty on the Broncos, and Jim Harbaugh popped the largest boner in the history of football. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. He popped the biggest boner in the history of football, and Dicker kicked it right through the uprights, and I don't have evidence of this, but I bet he fucking splooged right there in his pants. Like,
And this is just for those of you who actually did not keep.
That's my opinion. That's not actionable, Jimbo.
48 years after another Chargers kicker.
Yes, Ray Wershing.
Wershing.
Of course, we're the only team that does this.
Yeah, 19, and that's 48 years. That's 1976. It's a long, long time ago.
America was only 200 years old.
America was just beginning its Carter era. Rest in peace, President Jimmy Carter.
That's true.
Yeah.
He died since we last potted.
That's true.
Rest in peace, Jimmy Carter. You almost unified Korea, and nobody remembers it.
I can't believe we're not a political science podcast.
I can. Do you want to talk about the means of production, Aryaan?
It's for the best. It's for the best. I can't imagine anyone. Yeah, go on.
We don't want to turn into the World Forum sketch on Monty Python.
God, imagine anyone taking our political views seriously. Goodness gracious.
I can imagine a lot of people taking our political views seriously.
And that scares me.
Why?
Because they should make up their own minds. Don't be sheeple. Be people. All right? You were done with your free kick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we've tied a bow on the Chargers season for now.
Wait, I just want to say this. What Harbaugh did with trades and free agents throughout the season, I think he was very vigilant. I think he did his best. I think we discovered a few good rookies, just one of whom I'm particularly impressed by was Tarheeb Still, right? I think we have a great prospective future, and I think Chargers fans should be very proud of this season. I will say this, just as an aside, that CJ Stroud is my least favorite quarterback in the NFL. And I'm going to out myself here a little bit. I'm older than CJ Stroud by like 5 or 6 months, which annoys me even more.
Welcome to one of the sad truths of aging, watching people younger than you succeed in sports.
Succeed way more than me in sports. But, good on him. He worked hard. He's worked his butt off. And he's my least favorite quarterback in the NFL, and to go out to him was disappointing. But he had a good game.
Less than Kermit?
You know what?
CJ Stroud
it's always going to be
CJ Stroud never endorsed.
That's true. That's you know what? Okay, maybe I shouldn't make blanket statements. I'll say CJ Stroud is a quarterback I am not particularly fond of. And to go out to him was disappointing. But, kudos to him. He played a better game. And so did his team.
I love Tarheeb Still. You know what I don't love, though? Joe Ortiz erasure. Because Joe Ortiz was the man who drafted him in consultation Jim Harbaugh. And Joe Ortiz was the man who made the trades. And Joe Ortiz
Made the trades.
made the trades. And Joe Ortiz will be holding the keys to our future.
Son of a gun. We have the 22nd.
Do we have the 22nd? Nice.
22nd. Yep, that's just been announced.
The reason why I
We
was
have
so
7 more picks after that. We have 7 more picks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
The reason I was hedging so much on the tight end thing is
125.
the single person who I've seen mocked most to us, and the person who, I mean, Jimbo might throw us a curveball, but like it would make a lot of sense for us to draft Colston Loveland out of Michigan, who's a tight end
A
and
lot
who
of talk
played
about that. Yep.
for. He's a single person I've seen mocked most to the Chargers. It's probably just because he played for Jim Harbaugh and like we could use an elite tight end, but yeah, I could definitely see that, and I'd be happy to see him there. Look, it worked at Michigan, man. It worked at Michigan. They beat Ohio State, which is where CJ Stroud
I'm
went.
so happy to hear that.
We're pro Michigan podcast.
I honestly didn't even, it wasn't even the Stroud. It wasn't the fact that Stroud went there. It's just the fact that I love Michigan. So there you go. We are now appealing
We're a
to-
Michigan podcast. Damn, I didn't even
Yeah.
realize you were a Michigan guy.
Yeah, I love him. I love him.
My grandma went to Michigan.
Really?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Look, we learn new things about each other.
They're actually probably of all the college football teams I like, which is 4 of them, they're the one I'm most personally connected to.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Same here. I will say, and the reason I love Michigan so much is because I almost went there myself.
I that was also a high choice for me, although a
Yes.
lot of it was because when I toured there, I toured the big house and I was like, fuck, I want to go here just because of this stadium.
Yeah.
And I was not. I don't understand, as just like a one line aside, I don't understand why college football recruits go to any other school other than Michigan.
Yeah. Lock in on Michigan.
Like,
recruiters.
Like I toured the big house on maybe the coldest day I've ever seen in my life, and it fucking rocked. And there was nobody there. It was right after Jimbo got there. And oh my God, walking through the locker room and all that, like getting to go on the field. Oh my God, what a building. If you're ever in Ann Arbor, Michigan, email whichever guy we emailed to get the tour and do it, because it's stunning.
Yep, it really is. Tied the bow? Ready
Tied
for
the
stick and
bow.
ball?
Let's talk about stick and ball. Before we get to cricket,
Sure.
I think we should touch on an exciting signing for,
The Dodgers.
yes, some hamburger ball. A third Japanese star pitcher has hit Dodger Stadium. Mr. Roki Sasaki of the Chiba Latte Marines. Today, at time of recording, which is January 17th.
We're talking like 3 hours ago.
Yeah, not long ago. Were we on the? No, I was the next person that I was on the phone with after I talked to you on the phone. I was on the phone with when Roki Sasaki signed with the Dodgers.
You were on the phone with Roki Sasaki?
Yes. He told me first, and then he told the media.
Me
Me
told
and
you
Roki go
first-
way back.
Whoa, like, that's
That's how I got Shohei Ohtani to agree to appear on the podcast,
next week.
which he will be next week. Yeah,
of course, yes.
Yeah. No, dude, Roki and I are boys. We go to dinner like
Dude, he's broken.
twice a day.
broken.
We have 2 dinners a day together.
Oh yeah.
I'm currently having dinner with Roki Sasaki.
Like as we speak.
I replaced myself, I cloned myself, and the other version of myself is currently eating dinner with Roki Sasaki.
Yeah.
But yeah, phenom Japanese pitcher in the ravine. I'm excited. I'm excited for next year. Thanks, Dodgers. And thanks, Roki, for making the right decision. Although, Toronto also would have been, like, all 3 clubs that his last 3 choices were all good choices. He would have. I don't hate the Padres. Yeah. I would have been fine if he signed with the Padres. But, and I probably would have been fine if he signed with the Blue Jays. But, the Blue Jays, as an aside, are like, I've never seen a club come in second for so many free agents in a row. And, like, if I didn't know that, like, a significant portion of their fan base were Toronto Maple Leafs fans as well, I would generally feel quite bad for the Blue Jays fan base, but I only feel bad for the Blue Jays fan base who are not Maple Leafs fans, because I'm not gonna feel pity for the hockey Dallas Cowboys. Like I'm not gonna feel pity for the hockey Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry.
As you shouldn't.
So yeah, that's awesome.
It's big news. It's huge. Very excited about that. I may actually be taken to a game for once this year.
Dude, I took you to a fucking playoff game. It did
one
suck, but
handed to us,
against the D-backs, it was the last terrible series the Dodgers played.
And as I told you back then too, if the D-backs go on to win the World Series, I'll be content with watching that blowout.
They almost did.
But they didn't. What do you win for almost winning? No, you win for winning.
I'm a Punjab Kings fan, man. I have to take what I can get.
Dear Lord.
Speaking of the Punjab Kings, I want to take...
Great segue. You're the segue king, dude.
I want to take a quick water break, and then let's talk cricket. Dude, I need some Trader Joe's sparkling plain water.
Plain sparkling water.
Like the fucking Californian actor that I am.
All right. Well, we taking a break?
We're taking a break.
Here's a word from our sponsors.
Yes.
I recommend G Fuel for long comfort and sheer life.
Nice.
Beautiful. We're back.
We're back.
Nick's got his hands full.
I do have my hands full.
And we're back.
I'm double fisting drinks.
Wow. That is a way to describe it.
I am double fisting drinks, baby.
That is, we're having fun.
I will not be parched for the remainder of this podcast recording.
You shouldn't be parched for the beginning, middle, or end. The only thing you should be parched for is...
cricket.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about cricket.
I haven't been able to talk about cricket with another human being in person in over 5 weeks. And that... Is it even 5 weeks? I don't care. That's not actionable. But I am fucking chomping at the bit to talk about it because we have had some massive things happening in the world of cricket.
I mean, the most important of which was what I think at least I predicted would happen, was that India got decimated in the Test series against Australia. Great contests all around, but I think our fatal flaw has been our selection. Look, if you're going to keep playing, I mean, we can get into the specifics, but I just want to do a blanket recap. If you're going to keep playing KL Rahul, if you're going to keep playing Shubman Gill, if you're going to refuse to play Sarfraz Khan, if you're going to, repeat the same mistakes you've made, there are a lot of brilliant veterans that are still playing on this team, including Rohit Sharma, including KL. It's time to go, It's time to make way for the new. And if you can't get that through your heads, then you're going to keep losing Test series on foreign soil. I mean, for God's sake, we lost a Test series at home against New Zealand. We got decimated. So it's not even that you're going out and losing, you're staying in and losing.
Well, I was going to say, losing a Test series in Australia, honestly, if you win at the Gabba, it kind of doesn't matter. India winning at the Gabba a couple years ago, I don't even know if India won that series. It doesn't matter. India won that series because,
But they won the series, yeah. That was a decider as well, which is why it was such a big deal. You're talking about Rahane captaincy, correct?
Yeah.
That was peak good cricket, peak youngsters showing up. And again, that was a series.
Was that when Mayank Agarwal was batting well for the India Test team? I feel like that was
possible.
Yeah,
possible. I remember Kohli was on paternity leave at the time, so he did not.
Paternity leave, yes. Or was that when he was shooting Wicket 2? Yes. They shot it before the first movie.
It was all about scheduling and dates, making sure Kohli's available.
He needed to get the day out of days. They had to send the day out of days to RCB, and RCB said, "We can't do this," and Virat said, "Fuck you." But he didn't say it that calmly. He was like, "Fuck you! You will not kill my dreams! You will not kill my dreams!"
The only time Kohli
I want to sing a duet with Ariana Grande!
The only time Kohli ever gets that desperate is when he's being a theater kid. Because that's who he is, a theater kid at heart. Yeah. Back to the Test series recap. Just real quick, I think we're really struggling as a batting unit. Especially in that last Test, I think a lot of people were making excuses for India regarding the pitch. They were saying that the pitch was an issue. They were saying that it was a low-scoring game. And this is the Sydney Cricket Ground we're talking about, which is the last test. Obviously, we are now out of World Test Championship contention as well. But in the SCG game, we started the first innings 185 all out. It was disappointing, obviously, but Australia responds with 181 all out. So we think, okay, maybe it's the pitch. India, second innings, has a chance to turn it around. 157 all out. Australia makes it with 2 days to spare. Clinch the test series. So, disappointing run all around, especially for Indian cricket fans. Congratulations to all you Australian cricket fans out there. You guys just outplayed us. I mean, there is no excuse left in the books. The selection is poor. The batting is poor. I think it was a very, very good move. I think the selectors probably pressured Rohit Sharma into sitting out. They said, hey, I think what happened was, hey, buddy, if you don't sit out, we're going to bench you. So it's probably the right call for you to bench yourself. And he decided to rest himself, and Bumrah captained the team. I think it's kind of tricky as a captain to bookend a test series, first match and last match, opener and clincher. So I think it was rough on Bumrah, but I think he's done the best he could. He's really been overbowled in the series.
He's called into captaincy kind of out of nowhere, right?
He's been the vice captain for some time.
No, but he probably didn't necessarily anticipate being captain in this series per se. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Perhaps for the first match, but definitely not for the last one, especially when Rohit was back.
Say what you will about Greg Roman, but they didn't tap him on the shoulder 15 minutes before the game, and they were like, guess what, buddy, you're calling plays today.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I will say a lot of talk has been had about Bumrah not returning for the second innings of the last test match due to injury, because, again, he was overbowled, and that's a fact. But I think all excuses can be made, and you can say that, yeah, Bumrah was the sole reason we lost. Well, we lost the test match long before the second innings of Australia's batting. I think we lost it in the very first innings because I don't think the pitch had a lot to do with some of those dismissals. I think it was reckless batting. I think it was negative cricket. I think it was, frankly, old age. I think some of these people got to go. And until you rectify that issue, you can blame it on whatever you want. But Bumrah can't carry you every single time. So that's my recap. One big thing we need to talk about, which we have strong opinions on, Constis Kohli.
Yes.
What a debacle.
Oh my God. Already, maybe... Did it happen in 2024 or 2025?
24.
Honestly, low-key, my number one moment in cricket in 2024.
I loved that I got into a huge row about it.
Yes, I want to just speak about this
Please.
To our certain mutual friend who will not be named to protect his privacy, but he definitely knows who he is.
And he's already been named on the podcast as well.
Yes, that's true. All right, I'll just name him. Chintan. Listen, buddy. I get where you're coming from. Here's the thing. Aryaan and I, we're theater kids. And Virat is a theater kid.
Yeah.
And this was classic theater kidding from Virat. And I fucking loved it. I loved it so much. Virat was such a theater kid about this. I watched the John Boy breakdown, which I'm not the hugest John Boy fan. Like, he's a Yankee fan, and, like, I don't know, you can just tell with his energy. But
I love John Boy, and I'm so jealous and mad that you got to see that breakdown and I didn't. Because you didn't send me the link. I really want to see it.
Dude, just go on YouTube and watch it.
I will.
In the John Boy breakdown, you can just see how, like, the two masks that, like, sort of signify drama. Virat made both of those faces perfectly within about 6 minutes of each other. And, like, I'm like, this man is truly dedicated to his craft. And what most people don't realize is cricket is his secondary craft. And Chintan, Aryaan and I will always love him doing this because we're theater kids just like him. And if we played for India, even though I can't.
Not now. But
buddy,
you made a few changes.
There's probably, I know there's only 1.4 billion people in India, but there's probably 1.5 billion people who are more likely to play for the Indian cricket team than I am.
Yeah. So that's the thing, Chintan. And not just Chintan. Anybody, and I think most people are on Kansas' side, but I'll say this. Every single person who came up to me, because they all know I love Emperor Kohli, King Kohli. They all know I love him, and they came up to me and they said, Kohli is a piece of so-and-so for doing this. And
no, he's not. Shut the hell up.
And I told them
I bet all those people hate Shakib Al Hassan, too.
Exactly.
Yeah, they hate fun. Excuse me, I thought this was America. I thought this was America.
There it is.
I thought this was America. Is this some kind of communist country? I thought this was America.
There's the bit.
There's
the bit.
Come on, what do you, do you want to just, give in to the British colonizers who, sit there and drink fucking, 75 pints of ale a day and say that T20 cricket is, a communist plot?
Yeah.
No. I think that more people should bump each other in Test cricket.
And you know what I told my friends, going back to that? He just ended Kansas' career. That's it. He just ended it. And look at the scores after that one innings of Kansas. 8, 23, and 22.
And 9 off of 14 in the Big Bash, might I add.
Beautiful. I mean,
there's only one name that brings to mind for me. Deepak.
Oh, for God's sake. I thought you were going to say Virat Kohli. That's fine, you know. He has ended Kansas' career. Not that, this is all in good fun. You don't ever wish ill on anybody. But for me, King Kohli is just, if he bumps shoulders, and here's the other thing, the hypocrisy, and I think this came to light later on, with Ricky Ponting bumping into Harbhajan Singh, and all these clips resurfacing of Australians bullying young Indian players. And I told our mutual friend, who shall not be named but has been named numerous times, I told him this. I said, it's part of the game. And Kohli paid 20% of his match fee because physical contact is always dicey.
Kohli paid, you're wrong about that. Kohli paid 20% of his match fee because the incels had to take something.
Exactly. I'm glad we corrected the record on this podcast. He did what needed to be done. I think it's all part of the game. I think he has brought, and this speaks to a larger point about Indian cricket since Kohli has been at the helm. He has brought a level of passion and aggression to Indian cricket that had never been seen before. Me as an Indian, I can say this as well. We used to always observe Indian cricketers taking the high road, turning the other cheek, getting bullied. And Ganguly, starting with Ganguly, and then, Kohli really, especially recently, there has been such a shift in the way people play. I mean, just look at the way Mohammad Siraj celebrates wickets. And I know a lot of people dislike him for it, but I, for one, love his passion. I love his passion. I love that he really relishes taking wickets. It means a lot, and it should mean a lot to beat another team. And to repay what's being given to you if you're getting sledged by James Anderson or Mitchell Johnson or what have you.
Wait, James Anderson sledges people?
Oh my God, dude.
I thought he just,
that guy's
goes in and bowls really good, until he turns into a skeleton and, crumbles into dust on a cricket pitch because he's bowled to the age of 146.
I don't think there's any fast bowler who in their peak, I mean, I'm sure I'll be corrected at boltscricketpodcast@gmail.com, but I don't think there's any peak fast bowler who didn't sledge in their peak.
That's fair. If you're a fast bowler, you kind of have to do it.
And it's part of the strategy. You're not getting wickets. You're frustrated.
Yeah.
You need to rattle the batsman. It's just part of the game, really, especially in cricket. And, it is the gentleman's game. But look.
I guess when I think of British cricketers, I think of them being way more abusive than simple sledging.
Oh,
because they're British and,
yes.
I
think Australian, I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I think Australians have always been the kings of sledging.
Definitely.
For sure.
Well, probably historically, but I imagine that's gone down a little bit in recent years on
because of the
account.
IPL. Yeah.
I wouldn't even say because of the IPL. I would say because half of their squad has serial killer energy.
That's true.
And serial killers tend not to sledge people. They tend to just, murder them in cold blood.
Right.
And which, by the way, Stephen Smith has been doing a serial killer impression across the Big Bash because he didn't get picked for the IPL, not realizing that he's never going to get picked for the fucking IPL because he didn't score any runs in the IPL. I will say this about Sam Constas, though, in that vein, which is I watched an interview with him, and it didn't seem like he has pure serial killer energy, so I hope he comes back. Frankly, I'm glad to see an Australian attempt some ramp shots in a game. I would have rather it been against England, but or another team that I like less. Honestly, there's no team that I like less than England, because I'm from Boston. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a problem with Sam Constas. I like a ramp shot in a test match because it makes like all of the incels so angry.
I think I'm very happy that he got his moment of fame out of it. He was signing so many T-shirts and so many little bats and so many pictures he was taking with the crowd during the game, like right after he got out. When if you did that against South Africa, you would have fucking loved it. I love it. I love it now.
Yeah.
Too. I will say I really did like
Yeah.
it. I think he deserved it for that 60-run innings.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon. But the one thing I didn't like was he started doing the shoulder gesture to mock Kohli, which again, all part of the game. But now you're buying into it. Now you're in it. Now you're in the conflict. Now don't get upset if there are repercussions for your actions. Now you're not the innocent 19-year-old. Now you're in it. Now you're mocking Kohli, and you could have let it go, right? But you're enjoying the conflict too, and that's great. You should. But again, as I said, you're buying into the conflict. You're doing the whole thing. You're getting the crowd into it. You're turning to the crowd and doing that impression of Kohli, and fun's fun. But just know that you're now inviting the wrath of your opponents and of social media trolls. And you're also taking the focus. See, as somebody who has played cricket, of course, and both of us can relate to this.
If you're trying to sit here and tell our listeners that I've played cricket, like saying I've played cricket in the same way that you've played cricket is like saying that, like, I don't know, Dodger Stadium and a tiny wooden shed are both buildings, but
I guess you're right because you didn't play it when you were maybe 8 years old or 10 years old.
My guy, I have never played in an actual cricket match. I have swung a bat and bowled in nets before.
So then let me say this as somebody who's played since 8 up until today.
Yeah.
That's a decade.
In actual cricket matches, not like just like bowling like unserious bouncers to Aryaan in the nets.
Yes, we're talking state level in India. I think when you indulge in that kind of behavior, in response, I'm not saying he was at fault. I'm saying in response, you are gonna deviate from the game. You're gonna deviate from your own game, and that's why I honestly do think he got caught up in that whole storm. And Kohli's been in poor form for quite some time, so as much as I love him, something needs to be done about that. But Constas...
Dude, what are you talking about? He just did, like, massive theater kid shit this match. He's on a fucking heater, man.
Dude,
in terms of entertainment value, he's never been higher.
Oh, you're right. I didn't say something needs to be done about it. He needs to play more cricket.
That's true.
That's what I meant. But to go to that, Constas indulged in it, and I think that's why you're seeing mid to low scores from him now. I think he needs to just settle a little bit and get back to what matters, which is the fact that he's a good cricketer, he's a good batsman with good instincts, and he can take it to any bowling unit in the world. If you can do that on debut, if you can ramp shot Siraj and Bumrah for 6 on debut, you can do anything. And I think that's the kind of caliber of player we're talking about, and I think he doesn't need to engage in petty stuff like he did.
I'm going to actually turn that around on Virat Kohli and say that he should have escalated it by playing a ramp shot in the next innings.
I agree.
That's my one real criticism of Virat here is you need to take it further. I want you to escalate it to the point where you have to go to Sam Constas and say, if you don't stop fucking around in the middle of my rehearsal, I am going to replace you with Jennifer Garner. Okay?
Absolutely. And I mean, I will say this. I don't want to keep too high an expectation of Kohli. If you could just give me a nice cover drive without edging it to second slip, that'd be great. You know, I'll take that.
He's edging it to second slip because he should be playing ram shots.
I agree. There we go. We uncovered
If he played the
mystery.
ramp, he would be hitting every ball for 6.
It's like every scorecard I see is Scott Boland. You know,
Scott Boland, Scott Boland, they pick him for matches in Australia. He knows all the pitches. He fucks people up in tests because he knows all the pitches. You put that dude at...
I mean, he's a 35-year-old pace bowler who's only played 13 games.
Yes.
5 of which were these ones. So he'd only played 8 games.
But I think he played in the last test series against India, and he plays well against India in Australia, but that's the only situation in which Australia actually selects him.
Yeah.
Because they know that it's a matchup play.
Yeah. He made his debut in 2021, played 8 games, and then 2020.
I was good because I remember facing Scott Boland playing the career mode in Australian state cricket in Cricket 19, and then I saw that this guy got selected for a test. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen. At the end of the day,
ultimately,
India was never gonna be able to win the test series because Australia had the Trump bump.
A lot of people tell me I could be a good fast bowler.
A lot of people tell me that I could be good at cricket, but I tell those people that cricket is a communist plot, ladies and gentlemen. It's a communist plot against America.
You know, I think our President Trump impressions were better off air. I'm a little disappointed in us.
You're a little disappointed. I don't know. I thought they were pretty good.
I think we'll get better as time goes by. I think once he's inaugurated, really,
That's
we'll get
true.
better. Anyway, that's...
Sachin Tendulkar
we're back.
and Virat
We're back, baby.
Kohli.
We're back. All right,
yeah, next week we'll be talking to you about the one time Donald Trump tried to talk about cricket.
What a crossover.
It really happened, guys.
That's it. Yeah. Well, beautiful. I think that wraps my India versus Oz stuff. I just want to real quick preview what's to come for the Indian cricket team. We have a series. Give me 1 second here. Just want to make sure I got this right. We have a T20 and ODI series coming up against England. Now, what is disappointing to me about this, and I will also play devil's advocate because I believe it was the right call. We are playing Rohit Sharma as captain.
In ODIs.
In the England series. In the England ODI series, correct. Because he's retired from T20.
I'll tell you what I regret about this series is that England is still a test-playing nation.
So true.
I seriously, I'm an American patriot in the classical sense. I believe that we should still be throwing British tea into our harbors.
The series is going to be played in India, of course. I say of course, but I didn't know that until very recently. And look, Rohit Sharma is going to be the ODI team captain. We're hearing murmurs that Surya Kumar Yadav is going to be the T20 captain, which to me, I'm a little disappointed because I love Hardik Pandya.
That's exactly the name that was about to come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Hasn't he won 80 billion more things as a T20 captain?
Yep.
Honestly, I would even take newly named officially in the shocker of the year as the Punjab Kings captain, Mr. Shreyas Iyer. I would probably take him as captain over
1,000% over Surya Kumar Yadav. And people are baffled about this. People are baffled that Hardik Pandya has been stripped of his vice captaincy. Patel.
That's just fucking Jay.
Akshar Patel. Akshar Patel is the vice captain, and that is absolutely fascinating. And I will say this because Gautam Gambhir is the new head coach of the Indian cricket team. I think Gautam Gambhir has his favorites. Perhaps Hardik Pandya is not one of them. And as much as I love Gambhir, Akshar Patel is vice captain. And by
the way, I don't think there's any fair reading of this podcast that says that we are an anti-Akshar Patel podcast.
I love Akshar Patel. He's one of my all-time favorite cricketers.
Single biggest regret in terms of Punjab Kings drops is probably Akshar Patel. Because
1,000.
I don't count Bishnoi because it was a mega auction, and I'm pretty sure he asked to leave.
Yeah. Yep. And so that's the thing. So knowing that Akshar Patel is a favorite on this podcast, vice captaincy for the Indian cricket team is a little extreme.
I think of Surya Kumar Yadav and Akshar Patel as guys that I would have as absolute fixtures in the team, and I would have neither one of them in the captaincy.
Absolutely.
Especially
Especially
in some
when
ways,
you
I
have...
would put in Rohit Sharma as I would have Hardik as captain, Rohit as vice captain.
Assume, but Rohit is retired, so who would you pick instead? Because I think you flip it. Hardik Pandya needs to be the captain.
If Shreyas is in the team, I pick Shreyas as the vice captain probably.
He's not in the team either. Hardik Pandya, well, the squads are going to be announced on Saturday, which is at time of recording tomorrow.
If Arsh isn't in the squad, we riot.
Oh, riot out of happiness, right?
No.
But Hardik Pandya as captain, Surya Kumar as vice makes sense to me. Or even Akshar as vice under Hardik makes sense to me.
Really, we're just wondering where Hardik is.
What's going on? And we're not the only ones wondering that. I think there's a lot of experts, including Dinesh Karthik, including a few people who are very baffled by this. So, remains to be seen what the hell is going on over there. But Rohit is ODI captain, and here we go. You ready? Rohit Sharma is captain of the ICC Champions Trophy, which is set to happen this year as well. Now so I'll say this about the ODI captaincy.
Wait, they're doing that again?
They're doing that again.
I'm pretty sure it's the first Champions Trophy since I've been a cricket fan.
Perhaps, because it didn't happen. Pakistan are the reigning defending champions.
What's the difference? Yeah, Pakistan are the defending champions, and Pakistan haven't won anything since I've been a cricket fan. So.
Right. Right. You were going to ask what's the difference?
What's the difference between the Champions Trophy and the World Test Championship? And the Champions Trophy was the one thing that I always looked at, and I was like, what are you doing?
Champions
here?
Trophy is basically it's teams that are in the top rankings of the ICC. There are no qualifications or any qualifiers or anything. It's just the top playing nations that are allowed to play the ICC Champions Trophy, basically. So champions of champions.
Is England in it?
Yeah.
Why?
I agree.
Why couldn't you eliminate them on the account of they're not allowed to play the ICC Champions Trophy because they're England?
I agree.
But Scotland is. Let's really piss off the English.
So it goes the top 8 teams of the ICC Men's Cricket World Cup automatically qualify for the Champions Trophy, and those 8 teams play against each other for the Champions Trophy. That's the format of the ICC Champions Trophy.
Gotcha. So it's like a World Cup, but just for... It's like...
People who did the best in the World Cup go to the Champions Trophy.
Gotcha. So it's like we're going to relitigate the World Cup, but only with the teams that did really well.
Exactly. Which is... I liked it. I like it because I also like the... I don't know if you remember the Champions League. Oh, you weren't a cricket fan at this time.
I'm aware of the Champions League.
The Champions League T20. What a beautiful tournament that they stripped from me, and I'm pissed about that.
There should be one T20 league in the world.
Yeah.
The globalists want to give you one T20 cricket league. They're going to ruin the...
Alex, please. Now is not the time. But the Champions Trophy is happening. Rohit Sharma's captain. Here's what I'll say about why I'm split by this happening. The England series, I think that should have been a trial of sorts to try a new captain in the ODI format. I think Rohit is very much on his way out. I mean, it would be stupid not to assume this is his last ICC trophy as captain. I think it's time for him to go. I think he knows it. I think he's, holding on for dear life. He's been stripped of his Mumbai Indians captaincy already. It's only a matter of time before he gets stripped of his India captaincy as well. He really already did in the Test series.
I don't know, though. With my grand conspiracy theory of Hardik trying to force his way out of Mumbai, he could get the Mumbai captaincy back.
Yeah, that's true. But I think they would pivot to Bumrah. I don't think they.
Yeah, they probably would pivot
to.
Damn, I would probably pivot to Bumrah too.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would. But again, the Ambani.
I wouldn't pivot to Bumrah. I see so much more of myself in Rohit Sharma, who is an older, more overweight man than either Bumrah or Hardik. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing these names way too correctly for Donald
Exactly.
Trump.
I was gonna say. I think your pronunciation is perfect, but oh yeah, I forget who you're. So I would say I wish they tried a new captain for the England series, for the England ODI series. I think it's a I guess they're shaking the rust off of Rohit's ODI, whatever. They want him to be in practice as a captain. Fair enough. Champions Trophy. I am glad that Rohit Sharma's captain because I don't want to try new captains in an ICC tournament. I think it's great. I think it's hedging, right? It's the best you can do right now. But I do get concerned because I don't see an heir apparent to the throne that Rohit currently holds. I don't see a captaincy prospect. I really don't. Unless you're talking Shreyas Iyer, which would be great. But they've been really mean to him back at the BCCI. So,
Jay, listen, I know he's not. I know Shreyas is not the hottest guy in Indian cricket, and you don't associate with tens. We've been over this. This is why you won't return our emails. But Shreyas is good at captaining, man. We obviously all reverence to you, Mr. J. Shaw, and your sexiness, but Shreyas, he's good captain, and he will make run enough that he can play in the national side, I think.
You're talking Shreyas Iyer.
Yeah.
I hope he plays because he deserves to, quite honestly. He is one of the most successful... Well, okay, I take that back. He is such a good captain. We've seen it in the IPL. We've seen him turn around the Delhi Capitals only to be stripped of his captaincy due to an injury. We've seen him go straight to the championship with KKR. And we've seen him in such high demand, and he's now at PBKS. God bless y'all.
Now our captain.
Now you're a captain.
Did he wear 96 at KKR? I can't remember.
You can cut this part out. Let's see if I can find his number.
I can't remember.
Yep. His...
I saw him revealed as number 96, and I was like, I feel like that's not his number.
He wears 41. I don't remember what he wore at KKR, but I will say 41 has been his number, but he's also now wearing 96.
I know somebody who I'm hoping to secure as a guest on this podcast in advance of the IPL season, who I want to ask about this, who knows a thing or two about numbers.
Nice. I know who he's talking about. But I will also say, so just to confirm, yes, Shreyas wore 41 on KKR.
Okay, so this is a number change. I don't
like it. Why fix something that isn't broke, you know?
I think we know somebody who might know why.
But you don't.
You don't.
Find out.
Unless you watch Willow TV and all of its commercials.
Oh, yeah. Man, I love those big companies. He's a huge company.
He is huge. He's pretty massive. But anyway, we had some other things going on, right? In the world of cricket, we have a franchise tournament going on right now, like franchise tournament.
Yeah.
Kind of.
You are our resident expert on that because
on the Big Bash.
Refuse to follow it at time of recording.
I literally just went through a bunch of Big Bash scorecards and found some takeaways. First off, several players, high expectation level Australian players for the IPL. At least one of these guys, and two guys that the Punjab Kings bought and hope may or may not be including in our squad next year, are having particularly bad seasons in the Big Bash. And considering that all three of these guys are Australian, it does not portend well for the IPL.
Dude, where do the days portend for sure?
I know. portend is kind of an ominous word. I might have used it twice on this podcast. So the first is Jake Fraser McGurk, a guy who has McGurked the hell out of the IPL in the past.
And who I was surprised, his first name is Jake.
Yeah.
I don't know why that surprised me so much, but off air we were discussing it. And I was like, is it Jake?
Yeah, and I was saying that Fraser McGurk sounds like the name of a 90s sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
And, like...
And I laughed.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah.
You had to be there, all right?
You had to be there. But he's not been making runs. He's been going out early. He's been batting slowly. Not very surprising, because I think Jake Fraser McGurk is one of the top young and express strikers, I would say, in World T20 cricket. So very surprising to see him struggle so much in Australia for the Melbourne Renegades on his home pitch. Or at least, I don't know. You know what? Maybe the pitch at Marvel Stadium fucking sucks.
Is it Marvel Stadium?
Yes. That's so they Melbourne Stars play at the MCG.
You're saying Marvel Stadium?
Yeah, it's called that.
Isn't it called the Melbourne Stadium?
You're thinking about the MCG.
Isn't that what you said?
No, there's multiple gigantic cricket grounds in Melbourne.
I love Melbourne. I wish I could go there one day. Somebody give me a free ticket to Australia.
We go to Melbourne. It's pretty fun. The other two, Aaron Hardy of the Perth Scorchers, who after normally like running roughshod over the entire Big Bash, absolutely sucked this year. Aaron Hardy has not been making runs for the Perth Scorchers, not good news. And Xavier Bartlett, X has not been given it to him for the Brisbane Heat. Lots of like 40 and 50 run figures. Yeah, not good news. Punter, please take these into account when deciding to not select these guys and, I don't know, give the Shedge Fund like 9 out of 12 games no matter what.
I completely forgot that Punter was your coach. I forgot. I was like, damn, these guys are a shoo-in to be number one, and then I realized Punter was your coach. Thank goodness. Now you've been knocked down like 4 positions at least.
I hope he's Jimbo and not Staley.
He is Staley. I will tell you that.
He's not.
He's got Herbert. He's got prime Herbert right now. Shreyas.
I thought you were gonna say Arshdeep.
Oh, that's
Arshdeep.
You know what?
Arshdeep propels balls for. He does not throw balls because that's not allowed when you bowl in cricket.
He's got Herbert with McConkey. So do with that what
he's got Herbert with McConkey with like Shane Steichen as an offensive coordinator because he's got Shreyas as captain.
Yep. So good luck with that. See how Punter screws that up.
Swear to God.
Watch you guys look like such a bad team. You're guys gonna look like such a bad team with such a bad captain. Anyway.
I will say this. The other person who has been making runs but less than usual is Marcus Stoinis, but he's also been doing some decent stuff with the ball. So, and honestly, if he's just taking it easy so he can destroy the IPL, I'm fine with that from Stoin. Glenn Maxwell started slow with the bat, absolutely destroying everything. I hope that is a run of form that will continue into the IPL.
It won't be.
I'm very open-minded to the idea that, yeah, it won't be.
But you know what? He's going to open the bowling for you every game. So that's that.
You know what? It's better than Arshdeep. Honestly, 2 overs. If he takes Arsh overs in the power play, I'm okay with it. I'm honestly okay with it. Because Arsh needs to be. He's a death bowler. We need to have him at the back end. But definitely not super stoked to see all of these guys not do well. But who knows? Maybe they won't get games in the IPL. Or I just crossed my fingers because this is an audio program.
I didn't even see it because I was looking at the audio recorder.
Wow. Look at you watching
the audio recorder.
On the other hand, I just noticed this, I noticed this reading cricket scorecards. So for those of you who are still listening that aren't cricket fans, when you read a cricket scorecard, the format that people's names are presented in is basically all initials and surname, usually. And oftentimes this is like 2 letters and a name. But every once in a while you will get somebody who has a very complicated name and you will see something in there that you don't expect. And this is how I came to find out that the Adelaide Strikers have an actual person whose given name was, and I'm glad you're sitting down for this, Aryaan, Henry Thomas Raphael James York Thornton.
Wow. Wow.
I just wanted to throw that out there and kind of let that one marinate and see what your reaction to that is.
I got nothing really. I got nothing. I can't even. Wow.
I don't think I've ever heard of anybody from like a native English speaking nation with that many names. Certainly not from a like British ass nation like England or Australia.
But I'm also not surprised at the same time. I mean,
like the people with that many names that come from Britain are fucking nobility and they're like inbred as shit. And like you just don't expect to see it in a Big Bash scorecard, you know? You don't even really expect to see it in an IPL scorecard very much.
Oh, definitely not, yeah.
But because I don't even know if I've seen a set of first initials that's that long. I know that like
I mean, I used to think VVS Lakshman was a mouthful. Vangi Prapu Venkatasai Lakshman, but that's nothing. You got nothing on Henry Thomas Raphael James York Thornton.
The only person with a name that long is the aforementioned K.N. Anantapadmanabhan.
Wow. Wow. I'm proud of you.
And even he doesn't have 50 names. He only has 3 names. They're just really long.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly, yeah. And you know what? He's done a lot with his life.
Yes, he had. He's a cricketer and an umpire. I learned that. Because I had to Google him. Because I was like, this is such an interesting name. I must learn about this person.
He's beautiful.
He's
a beautiful man with beautiful taste. I don't know why I said that second part.
I just want to see him like join an NBA team so he can have like the whole name like go all the way around the number. Yeah. It's a full circle. It seriously makes Antetokounmpo look short. Makes Gilgeous Alexander look short, honestly.
I swear to God, man. What else do we want to talk about?
Well, you sent me a Instagram reel the other day.
Today?
No, it wasn't the other day. It was actually like several months ago, and I check Instagram reels like quarterly, basically. And I check my Instagram DMs with like the same frequency that like companies release earnings reports. In this specific video, it was an Australian gentleman positing that to make Test cricket more interesting, you should allow each country to release a wild animal that lives within like that country to just try and distract the opposing batsman. And the punchline of the joke is, of course, that England killed all of their wild animals and all they can send is a colonizer to condescend people. But it begged the question for me, in the halcyon day that the United States of America becomes a test-playing nation, which it should be all right. I thought this was America. But on that day, what animal will America release to distract opposing batsmen in its test matches?
I'm going to say mine first because it's going to be a much less nuanced and developed explanation. I'm going to go with a classic because I'm a patriot, right? I'm not a New England patriot, but I'm an American patriot. I love my country. And I'm going to go with the bald eagle, okay? I think the bald eagle is a complete bird. I think it symbolizes everything that's great about our great nation. I think it would distract the hell out of anyone batting or bowling, or even watching, for that matter. What a majestic bird. I pick the bald eagle.
Okay. In spite of the fact that I'm a filthy Marxist, I too love the bald eagle, and I see where you're coming from. It's a good choice.
I have a bird's eye view.
It's got a bird's eye view. It's very fast. But here's what I was thinking. What, Aryaan, do batsmen hate more than possibly anything else? What will batsmen throw a tantrum and stop the game in response to?
Side screen movement?
Exactly. And I just don't think that a bald eagle would provide nearly as much side screen movement as we need to piss these people off. I think that what we need is actually one of the most dangerous animals in all of America, a rabid possum on the side screen. I think that we need this motherfucker screaming and running around and climbing the fence and potentially attacking some of the fielders. Our own fielders, by the way. These are...
What a take. I was told that it would be a hell of a take. I did not expect this.
Listen, we're going to need to rabies boost Aaron Jones and the rest of the American cricket team before this can happen. By the way, Aaron Jones, the cricketer, not Aaron Jones, the running back. They're different people. Maybe. I don't know. If you are Aaron Jones, the running back, please email us at boltscricketpodcast@gmail.com and tell us if you're also Aaron Jones, the cricketer. That would be super sick. But I believe Aaron Jones of the St. Lucia Kings, of the Punjab Kings cinematic universe, which means that he's also associated with the NFL's 407-7th team. Very exciting. But yeah, I think we just give the 11 a rabies booster. Maybe give some of the substitute squad a rabies booster too, like whoever's sitting in the first couple of rows, and just let them loose, man.
Wow.
I don't know if they have possums in other test playing nations too.
Perhaps not. I mean, I don't really know.
Do they have possums in India?
Not that I've ever seen. I really don't want to be added for this, but I'm gonna make a call, and it's no. I don't think we have possums.
Like, I don't think they have possums in Australia. The Australians, it might not work so well on because they have so many things that can kill you. They probably have like 2 or 3 giant rodents that are also like frequent carriers of rabies.
And just as confirmation, thank goodness I was right. We indeed do not have possums.
Yeah. Like, I think that, and I also think that the possum is just, like, such an American animal, you know, in terms of its, like hardiness while also being, like, kind of extremely dirty and trashy, you know? Like, I feel like it represents the underbelly of America and, like, the fighting soul of America quite well, you know? I don't know. I love the possum.
Wow. I am quite speechless.
Especially the rabid possum. And, like, they're not easy to kill either. Like, they're not that big. You can't get a clean shot on them very easily. They could, according to Wayne from Letterkenny, they could probably survive a nuclear blast.
What a source that is.
I sourced my arguments from fictional characters, guys.
Wow. That is... Wow. You've caught me speechless here, gang. Because this is fascinating material, I must say.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just I think
I mean they're thinking of ways to spice up cricket. They're looking at stuff like impact sub, malleable power play overs like they do in the Big Bash.
Possums.
It's gotta be possums.
Possums, crocodiles, elephants, and like the guy in the video said that India would bring in a tiger. I actually think that India should bring in an elephant so we can have an elephant in the room. And like think like you hit a line drive straight at that thing, you're not getting 4. You might not even get 1. If you have a fielder near the elephant,
he's not moving.
Yeah, he's not moving. He can't even feel it. He can't even feel like a pull shot to the side. Like he's an elephant.
Oh man, you know what? And here's the thing. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are skeptical here, thinking, you know, possum this, possum that. What are you guys talking about? To you, and I'll just say this. You know, if you disagree with the possum thing, this is probably the most logical I can get with this. You're wrong.
Yeah. And if you're British, I'll just remind you, 2-war win streak against you guys. Maybe. I don't remember much about the War of 1812. 1 Revolutionary War win streak against you guys, and back-to-back World War champions. And we fucking saved your ass both times. So, yeah. Don't have opinions about cricket anymore. And you guys created the 100. And, like, okay, one last thing. Because I was going to add one more agenda item about the 100.
Yes.
The 100 tried to make things equal between men and women by renaming batsmen to batters, which I'm fine with. They also changed wickets into outs because they want to attract the 3 baseball fans that still exist, 2 of which you're currently listening to on this podcast, and the 3rd of which is Marco.
Yeah.
Shout out Marco again.
Shout out Marco. A podcast favorite.
But you know what they didn't do for equality in the 100, Aryaan?
Payment?
Yup.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
The men are paid 4 times what the women are.
Goodness gracious.
Leave it to the British to, fucking, do the dumbest example of fake wokeness I've ever fucking seen in my life.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my god. If you're gonna be woke and take the fucking flack, actually do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Pay fucking, Nat Siver and any other British women cricketers that I can remember. Does India let women cricketers play internationally in
We play
T20s?
the WP international T20s?
Yeah. They don't let the men do it.
They don't let the men do it. I don't know if that's in their contract for women.
Honestly,
I remember Harmanpreet Kaur playing the Big Bash, the women's Big Bash.
So yeah.
But it could be a Mandela effect.
Maybe. I don't know. Although I will say, if I'm Smriti Mandana, I'm not signing up for the fucking 100 in a million years.
Yeah.
I've taken one look at that, and I'm like, I would seriously rather have my head taken off by a pole shot in the Maidans.
Okay, yeah. So she did play the Big Bash, but she wasn't drafted in the Harmanpreet Kaur. Wasn't drafted in the Big Bash this year, 2024, which is woo. But
Yeah,
I think they are allowed. I mean, if the fact she's
really
in the draft,
stupid.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that she's in the draft.
Yeah, but them not drafting her is fucking stupid. I don't care where she's played. She'll probably go to Australia and fucking beat the Australians at T20. And
Smriti Mandana was drafted.
Okay.
And so was Deepti Sharma and Jemima Rodriguez. So they are allowed to play, which is weird. I don't know why they're allowing I'm very happy that they're allowing the women to play in the Big Bash because they get paid less, by, the BCCI. So they, more income streams the better, right? Which is wonderful. It's fantastic. I don't get why they don't I get why they don't let the men play, but you can't monopolize their time that way. Kohli's playing the Vijay Hazare Trophy right now, which I think, people, he can play it if he wants to, and no disparaging the Vijay Hazare Trophy. But if he wants to play, the Caribbean Premier League instead, he should be able to.
Jay Shaw just turned to his smoking hot assistant and said, "This is why I don't associate with tens."
I didn't know his assistant was Hardik Pandya.
He isn't. He found another hot guy to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Lots more to talk about.
Yeah.
Lots more to talk about. But
I think we've covered a lot today.
I think we've covered a lot. Lots more to come. So much to debrief on. So much Harsha Bhogle talk to be had.
Oh yeah, wait, sorry. Let's close on this.
Let's close. Okay, let's close.
Let's do what is long been known as a really good technique in podcasting for keeping your listeners engaged, which is finishing an argument that was started in a previous episode in a later episode.
You say we're gonna finish the argument, but we're not.
We may or may not. It may have been in the last episode or 2 episodes, or no, 3 episodes, because 2 episodes ago was with Noemi, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was in the last episode, you voiced your qualms with legendary cricket broadcaster Harsha Bhogle.
Legendary is quite a stretch.
Let me see if I can summarize your argument as best as I can understand it. You get very frustrated with Harsha when he brings in tactical analysis, because his tactical analysis is lacking.
It's not lacking. It's
terrible.
Incompetent. Yes.
Yes. At least in your opinion. I don't know enough about cricket to rule on it. I do not know ball well enough, as much as you say all the time that I know ball. I haven't compared his analysis to actual matches enough to really, really back up what you're saying on a match-by-match basis. But for the sake of my argument, I'm going to agree with you that it's all terrible. Here's what I'm going to say about what you said about Harsha. That is all spoken like a man who was not forced to listen to that much Joe Buck growing up.
Yeah.
Because here's what I will say in Harsha's defense. Harsha has the fucking voice of an angel. Harsha has a better announcing voice than probably anybody else I can think of in world sport. Certainly than anybody in American sports. He's better than Al Michaels. The only person that I think has announced in my lifetime in American sports that was as good as Harsha vocally is Vin Scully. What I will say, taking for the sake of argument that his analysis is terrible, as a little bit of advice for you, Harsha Bhogle, and Harsha, if you are listening, don't listen to this first email us at boltscricketpodcast@gmail.com.
And plug us on your Instagram.
But once you've done that, the one thing I would say is in the play-by-play announcer, color commentator relationship, it works best when the color commentator or the analyst or whatever you want to call it does the analysis and the play-by-play person talks about who the players are, tells the audience who they're watching, things about them. This was one of my favorite things always about Vin Scully that, like, just made so many, especially the first couple seasons that I started really watching the Dodgers that were absolutely terrible, so good and, like, watchable and enjoyable night after night, is that Vin Scully, he wasn't gonna necessarily really give you any tactical analysis, but Vinny knew a good story about every guy on the field, and he would always share it. And I think that when you have a voice like Harsha, when you can, endear people to yourself just by the way you sound, I think that your priority should be telling stories about the people on the pitch, and I think that if Harsha replaced some of his analysis with more of that, even if his analysis is more correct than you give him credit for, I still think it would make him a better commentator. But honestly, I was raised on the guy who said that Randy Moss fake mooning Packers fans was a disgrace. Just let me have my breath of fresh air with Harsha, please, because oh my god, just listen to every single football broadcast back to back, and they're all worse. They're all worse. They're all worse than Harsha, and their analysis is worse than Harsha. I'm already going to say that. Joe Buck is a worse analyst than Harsha. This is an anti-Joe Buck podcast. Then again, 90% of American sports podcasts are anti-Joe Buck podcasts, because he probably has one of the lowest approval ratings of any living American. And yeah, I just much with the Chargers, I'm just so grateful for what I have, because I know that there's an alternative that is so much worse.
It's and that's the thing, right? I mean, I have heard legendary commentators, including Danny Morrison, Mark Howard, right, who's currently commentating, in fact, in the India-Australia series, even Ravi Shastri, Carlos Brathwaite, remember the name, right? Yeah. There's so many beautiful moments of commentary.
But you're talking about guys, I don't know about Mark Howard, but with the exception, all of those guys played international cricket. And so I love Danny Morrison because he's both a great analyst and and has a fascinating voice and is batshit crazy. Danny Morrison could coach the Chargers for sure. Justin Herbert, just throw it over the middle, mate. You got it right there. You got Lad. His name's Lad, or is he a lad? I don't know, but you got Lad. You got this lad open in the middle. You just gotta throw it to him, mate. You know you gotta do it, mate.
Such a good accent. Oh my god. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Ian Bishop and Palmy Mbang.
Oh, Ian Bishop. Ian Bishop also has the voice of an angel.
Ian Bishop was the Carlos Brathwaite, remember the name.
Yeah.
Big quote, right?
Yeah.
And Palmy Mbangwa has been beautiful, with his commentary as well. So there's so many people that I grew up with in this sport.
Yeah.
And comparing
there
them
is
to
a very high level of commentary in cricket too. Like there are a lot of really legendary commentators. Honestly, baseball is the only other sport that I've seen as many, but the thing with baseball is none of the legendary commentators are still working, and all the ones that are, like, with all apologies to Joe Davis, who is fine, kind of stink.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I understand, and I think the suggestion you made to Harsha Bhogle, which he will listen to and take after he's emailed us at bullscricketpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes.
And plugged us on Instagram.
Yeah.
After he does all that, he will take those recommendations. He would benefit from it. I mean, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think there are people who play call, and there are people who,
overstep their bounds. Bishop does a really good job. He focuses on his calls, and that's why all his calls are classic.
Yes, 100%.
I'm glad that we have Bish too.
And I like passionate. I don't like Sunil Gavaskar as a person, but I think his commentary is pretty great.
Yeah,
because he knows what he's talking about and he doesn't mince his words. And mind you, the last time he played, international cricket was 3 decades ago.
Yeah,
or maybe even more. I don't know, but that's the game is almost unrecognizable. Yeah. There's a format of cricket he used to play which doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
The ODI format used to be 60 overs, And so anyway, there are people who, albeit, Harsha Bhogle is probably the only journalist that I know of that is now a mainstream commentator. Yeah. So God bless him. But, I'd rather not have him. I'd rather have another ex-ball player commentating those games. I think he has an elegant voice. I think he's great with reading out the stats that are fed to him by the statistics team, but I don't see him adding color to what's already being said. I think most of his calls are wrong. I think in big crunch moments he says, "What a bowler! What a catch! What a batsman!"
I just love when he goes, "Shot!"
Yeah. I mean, does it get any more uninventive than that? I don't know.
No, but just the way, it doesn't need to be more inventive than that, man. It's the way he says it. It's not what he says. You know what? I just came up with the solution to this. Harsha, after you're done... Harsha, once you've finished emailing us, promoting us on Instagram, and listening to our advice, if you are interested in becoming an NFL commentator, please email us at boltscricketpodcast@gmail.com and we will try and get you a job with CBS. Because you don't know enough about American football to get it wrong. You just need to know you're good at identifying players based on number already because you're a sports commentator. So, yeah, I would gladly have you and Danny doing our Chargers games because, as much as I enjoy the current people that rotate between our games, I don't know. I don't fucking like Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. Tony Romo's an overrated commentator. There, I said it. Any former NFL quarterback should be able to have the types of insights that he has because that is your entire job as an NFL quarterback. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a fan. I'm into Harsha. For all the Harsha fans out there. You are represented on this podcast.
Well,
on that note,
I
think we're just going to go and enjoy Roki Sasaki even more. And we're really going to enjoy him because he hooked it up and he arranged it so that next week, his teammate, Mr. Shohei Ohtani, will be joining us on this podcast. So, for Aryaan Ori, Derwin James Jr., and everybody else associated with the NFL's 407 7th team, my name is Nick Cates, saying, well...
I've got so much to say and so little time to say it. Great job, everybody. Who's got it better than us?